Hello, everyone. It's been a while since I put out some content. It's been quite the wild ride, a lot going on. I actually have a corporate day job that pays the bills, but it's time to move this forward, move the ball down the field. It's been a struggle for me. So I have a lot of this work that I'm intending to do with this channel that I do without the mic and without the camera on. I invest deeply in the people around me and my circle, and I love that. I feel very blessed to have that ability and that platform. But now I think it's time to take this next level. So this right here, this audio alone is an exercise for me of faith and just pressing into this space that I'm passionate about and I want to explore. So I'm just going to let you in on my monologue. That's how we're going to start, and we're just going to see how this unfolds. But I love to listen to podcasts, and I really enjoy, especially when I find something where it just really resonates with me. I have a lot of things that I feel like rattle around in my head all day, and experiences that I have had, experiences that I'm going through, and things that I want to learn and I want to press into for where I want to go. So one of the obstacles that I've had recently in this is, am I qualified? Am I qualified to even speak about this? And then also, I've really been pressing into a program that I'm with called the Speaker Lab, and it's designing your talk and helping you kind of direct it towards a specific audience, which is incredibly valuable, and it's been a great experience so far. But part of where that trajectory started to point me to was speaking into the corporate environment. Well, I live and breathe the corporate environment. The corporate environment is not what feeds my soul. Now, somewhere along the way, I may find a way to take what I want to speak to and redirect it into that space. But right now, even though that would be the way of monetizing this, that's not the right answer for me. So I'm letting you guys in on my journey on how I'm pressing into, I know what my calling is, and overcoming all of these obstacles and mindsets that I have. And there's all kinds of mindset information out there, but I'm just going to let it fly as to how I am getting to this moment to take a step that, to me, I'm tired, and I have a lot of excuses that I could make as to why not, and they're good reasons, but it's time to, as I've had some friends remind me that I've said before, don't wait for it to be perfect. You just start. That's one of the biggest things. And even if you lose momentum, like I definitely lost some momentum for some very, very good reasons. Don't look at it like you have to start all over. Just continue, as they so wisely said to me. So what makes me qualified, right? There are so many, this is something I've been wrestling with. And for some of you who may be thinking, gosh, should I start this? It's a little overwhelming. There's so much content out there. The sheer volume alone makes it a little bit intimidating, because it's, gosh, there's so many things out there already. And how do I make it perfect? And why would somebody want to listen to me speak? Well, currently, I have people calling me anytime, day or night, because they value what I have to say, because I love them well. So I'm going to share that with you, whoever you may be, and however far this may reach. But if nothing else, this is an exercise of pushing through the things that I've heard and now applying them, or things that have been kind of rattling around inside of me that I have to bring to the world that's fresh, that I need to apply. And just demonstrate that to people, that it will continue to inspire them. Now I'm going to start recording some of that. So my experience is what qualifies me. I have a significant amount of experience that's going to go with what I intend to talk about. But I'm not necessarily more qualified than any of you. Each one of you is qualified for something or some topic based on, or a number of topics, based on your experiences that you've had, experiences that you're having right now. And then there are going to be more things as you have additional experiences. One of the keys for me that I have learned about myself is that I have to be willing to let the process be every bit as valuable as the outcome, which sounds very cliche, but I'm going to press into that for a moment. So for me, starting this, I can speak to people, and I do it quite regularly without a camera or without a mic. So the obstacle is we'll get it perfect and make sure your hair's done. And you gotta do it where there's video as well, not just audio. And so often just wrestling through the logistics will slow me down and demoralize me to the point where I'm like, it's not that important. I already lost what I was going to say, so I'm not going to do it. Well, okay, let's eliminate some of those and get it bare bones. I have a lapel mic and my laptop. I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world, but I'm recording in Movavi Video Suite, the audio capture option. Boom, the end. It automatically saves it to a file for me, and I can upload it to YouTube, and I can put my logo on it, and we can just proceed that way so I can get the content out, right? So working through the process has real value. There are people that set up things with, the quality of the audio is not great. The background is horrific. They're not even necessarily a great speaker, but they're bold enough to have something to say. There's a lot of volume of that out there. Well, I search and I dig for content that will resonate for me. I think differently. I feel differently. I experience the world differently. And I know that there have to be other people out there that feel that way as well. And it can be a very lonely space sometimes. But when you do find that content that resonates with you, whether it's nuggets or whether it's the whole book, that matters. Like, you want it affirms and confirms a lot of what you're saying, but also can help you press into, all right, I can't put my thumb on this thing, and then boom, you listen to what they have to say, and you're like, yes, that's what I'm thinking, that's what I'm feeling, and it helps you ask different questions. So the process of pressing into this, of just stepping out in faith and not letting the volume and the quality and the logistics stop me from starting again, is where I am. The other thing that really hit me, and then it struck me as a lie that I need to address, because I suspect that there are a great deal of you that probably have the same thing. Some call it imposter syndrome. I can maybe relate to that a little bit, but for me, just organically, the way it feels without fishing for other people's terms, I'm simply going to speak based on what I feel and let you walk with me as I move through those experiences to discover. It isn't about just recording once I've discovered it and I have all the answers. It's about recording the process of discovery. And we've lost that. Everyone is so sure. Everyone is so certain of how they feel and what they think. And there's no room for discussion. There's no room to change your mind with new information. And that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't sit well with my spirit. I'm not built that way. And thank goodness I'm not built that way, because if I thought and felt the way that I did 5 years, 10 years, 6 months ago, that would be really unfortunate. And it also, I would have missed out on some tremendous relationships along the way that have moved through this process with me. So that's kind of what I'm here to share. Unapologetically, and I will give credit along the way where I can recall credit, but sometimes there gets to a point where you've heard it enough, whether it's necessarily common knowledge to everyone, or it becomes common knowledge because you dive in like myself. I've dove headlong into these spaces where I'm hungry and I cannot find content that resonates with me. But once I do, I chase that rabbit hole all the way down and listen to anything and everything I can get my hands on that resonates with that. So to me, it may be common knowledge, and I may not be able to recall the source because I have multiple sources over the years. But I will do my best to cite sources. The point being, there are things that we're going to talk about here that for myself and my own mindset, it isn't about that I had to come up with it from scratch and I have to have credit for every single thought and idea. In fact, I think that's counterintuitive in some ways. I think some of my best skill sets and some of the best tools that I have had for growth have been that I recognize when I don't have the answers. I recognize when there's a skill set that I do not have, but I'm able to find that in and through someone else or other tools that are available to me. My skill set isn't knowing everything and doing everything myself. My skill set is that I'm able to recognize the boundaries of what I am good at and what I do organically have within me to bring as new and creative into the world, and to recognize the value of what other people have that is new and creative that they have brought into the world that resonates with me. We are not meant to do this alone. We are not meant to think in a vacuum. We are not meant to experience life in an echo chamber. We are meant to move through and mold one another through this life. And we are the product of our collective experiences and conversations and our community and what we've interacted with. And having the bravery to say, hey, this is actually outside of my comfort zone, or this is a new idea, or this is a new experience, that molds and shapes us in beautiful and powerful and important ways. And I think in my view of way that I see where we are presently and where I hope that we are going, we as a culture, kind of going back to that, being so sure of and so certain of what we think in, an ever-moving environment. I mean, if we look even at fashion and let's look at eyebrows, shall we? If we were so sure about our eyebrows back in the 90s, there wouldn't be room for those bad boys to be appreciated and grown back, okay? So, and now we're to the point that we're tattooing those suckers right back on to cover our mistakes of what we're so sure that we were pulling those suckers out by the root, right? So there has to be room for growth, there has to be room for humor, and there has to be room for conversation. I know I want to be heard, but I also want to create a space where other people can be heard and can find their voice if they don't understand what they think or feel, that there's this whole experience that we can have together to explore how to understand what do we think, what do we feel, and why. That why, to me, is so deeply important. So I'm not really as interested in the issues themselves, right? There are a lot of headlines. There are a lot of very powerful and I think explosive and volatile topics. And in some ways, the way that they're presented, it seems to me as if that is the design, to create division and create, basically drop a bomb into what could otherwise be unity and very valuable conversation, and create this extreme division and these extreme emotions and reactions. But even if you look at, by contrast, not being able to talk about things, being so sure that we're so divided and we can't have these conversations and either one is completely right or one is completely wrong, that's not how nature operates, and that's not how science operates. Real science, and this isn't even political, it's baffling to me that science has been politicized, but real science at its core is debate, is competing ideas, and is having the bravery and the boldness to say, I disagree with that, and this is why, and well, let's press into that. Okay, that's actually made me think of something a little differently. I was I've thought of, 1 + 1 = 2 plus, and then I have a question mark there. Your brand new idea has now allowed me to find or reach or be able to put my finger on this variable that maybe was missing for me, or to redirect my idea just a little. I can massage my idea. And it isn't about being wrong. It's about being smart enough to recognize that there's room for growth and there's room for change. So I have no desire to dive into issues explicitly at this time in terms of headlines and that sort of thing. But what I do have a desire to do, because it's simply been my journey and I have found such incredible value in it, and this is the stuff that people tend to come to me for, is that fundamentally I want to take, say there's a headline and I read it and I have a response to it. Okay, well, there's the response at face value, but then I have this urge to flip it inward and go, okay, that's my response, but where does it come from? What is the root? And ask some different questions to allow myself to be uncomfortable in asking a different question of myself, sitting with some uncomfortable thoughts and emotions, being willing to challenge them, and maybe still come out on the other side being like, no, I firmly feel this way and I'm confident in it, but leaving room for, if I take a moment to pause and sit with myself rather than just vomit it out there because I'm responding, I'm not thoughtfully thinking it through. Well, maybe there is some room for growth when I boil out some of the initial reaction and pure raw emotion, and in some ways not to our fault, but the system is designed to pull that out of us. How do I respond differently? Is it valuable for me to get into an internet debate? Or is it more valuable for me to stop and think, what do I feel? Why do I feel it? And when I express it, where is it coming from? One thing I have learned, there are two roots and two roots only that everything stems from. It is one of two things when you boil it down to its most basic form. It either comes from fear or it comes from love. And from there, love can look like joy and happiness. Fear can look like anger, manipulation, uncertainty, insecurity, right? You boil all those things down and it really does come down to fear or love. When I communicate, what is the root? Not only what is the root, but what do I expect out of it? Am I putting it out there because I'm uncertain and I'm open to conversation and I want to work through this? I know that I'm afraid or I know that I'm angry, but then what? Do I simply want to live in that space and carry this chip on my shoulder and constantly respond from this gaping wound that I have? Or do I want to take it a step further and go, okay, I'm angry. How can I understand this better? Where can I go with it in a safe way that is healthy, right? How can I take any aspect of the spectrum that I am on and use it for something that is ultimately healthy and life-giving? I may be angry about X issue. I may really feel like that issue needs to change. Is going out and spewing my anger going to be the best way to be the change that I want to see? I think that's Maya Angelou that says that. It may not be correct, but I know I didn't come up with it, but it's brilliant and I love it and I live by it. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Or it might have been the Dalai Lama. I don't know, folks. We're all in it together. You can Google it. But be the change that you want to see. So from that, is that going to invite people to have the conversation, for you to be able to share what you think and what you feel in a way where they feel seen and heard enough? You gain the rapport with them in a way where they might actually be willing and able to hear your very valid points. Are you likewise willing to listen to what they have to say, not simply for rebuttal, but to understand, respect them, and honor them as a human being enough to have a genuine conversation that you would want to have. If you want to be heard, are you creating space for them to be heard? And how do we get back to that? So ultimately, that's what's driving this. I'm going to continue to press into this space as I have thoughts and feelings that pop up. But I just wanted to share that these are some obstacles that I have identified for myself, whether or not I'm qualified, the sheer volume of content out of there, regardless of quality. The content volume is very intimidating. And so for someone to want to speak, especially when it feels like their voice or their thoughts or feelings might be the minority, well, that person needs to speak even more. And if they hear information out there that is affirming that it's, yes, this resonates with me, then in my opinion, and this I feel like is what I want to do, is to take that information and continue to pay it forward and share it. It doesn't have to be my idea. It just has to be something that matters to me or resonates with me, and that I can add voice and add volume to it and affirm it right back. It has affirmed something for me. If I am going to continue to validate it and push it out into the world, I'm affirming it to the person that I got it from. And that has value. We need more of that. We need more healthy, timely voices for each season. What might be healthy and important in this season might not be exactly what we need to hear in the next season. But we have to be present enough to speak into our current season with things that are healthy, because it feels like there's more toxicity out there than there is of things that help me to sleep at night, help me to put my phone down in a timely manner to go to bed, and I wake up in the morning energized and ready to go, rather than defeated and exhausted before I even step out of the bed. I thank you guys for spending time with me and letting me talk to you. I look forward to many more conversations in the future, and I look forward to meeting so many of you where we can have some conversations together, and hopefully this will breathe life into you as it continues to help me grow by just stepping into the practice and the exercise of it. Have a great evening, and we'll talk again soon.